Hey everybody, I'm Bueller from Comics with Bueller, and this is
Bob from Everything Comics.
And you're watching Comic Book Addicts.
Nice.
What's up, everybody? Comic Book Addicts, episode 29. What's up, Pops? How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. How about you, son?
I'm doing well. We got Lorenzo tonight as special co-host, y'all, from Indie Comics and Reviews. Does some amazing comic book reviews over there if you've never checked out his channel. I appreciate you coming to hang out with me tonight, Pops.
Oh, happy to be here and meet this very cool guest we got.
Yes, we have an amazing guest tonight, y'all. I want to make sure to I want to run through some announcements real quick. We do have a special birthday in the community that I wanted to shout out. Big milestone birthday, Tony from the Comiverse. I wanted to say happy birthday to Tony. He turns 50 today. So I wanted to be sure to shout him out on the show. Happy birthday, Tony. I hope you're having a good birthday, man. And normally I wouldn't say how old somebody's turning, but I know Tony won't care. He's cool like that. So happy birthday, Tony. I hope you're having a good one so far. I wanted to remind you guys, the CBC Awards, you got 5 days to get in your nominations, and a lot of really good channels out there. But I'll kick it over to Brian and let him tell you about it.
Hey YouTube, Brian LCS, and just a friendly reminder that the Comic Book Community Award nominations are currently open. They close August 5th. So visit cbcawards.org to nominate your favorite content creators and channels in the comic book community today. Make sure your voice is heard.
A lot of good content creators out there. So make sure to get your nominations in. We got 5 days. 5 days, y'all. Have you done yours yet, Pops?
Oh, you know I'm always a last minute guy. I haven't done mine yet. Thanks for the friendly reminder. You got to get over there. Get over there in 5 days.
Well, still 5 days. I'm sure you and Marcus could jump on live together or something and get it done. Let's see. Oh yeah, I wanted to shout out. I got a me and Frank from Frank's BS are doing a collectors live stream on August 9th. It's just going to be like covering different collectors and their collections that they're passionate about. Other than comic books, it could be anything really, from G.I. Joe to Transformers, coin collections, just anything that's legal that can be shown on YouTube. If it's a collection and you're passionate about it, we want to show it off. We want to do we're doing like a show and tell live stream about that. So I wanted to mention that for a minute. It's going to be a lot of fun, but we're going to do for episode 1, it's going to be Transformers. So if you have a Transformer collection and you want to show it off, hit us up, hit me or Frank up, and we'll get you on there and we'll have some fun and show off some cool collections. But enough of these announcements, because we got a really cool guest tonight, y'all. Tonight's guest is not only a multi-talented musician, he has an awesome solo project. He's played in a bunch of different bands, different instruments in different bands. Super talented guy. But he's also a writer of a really cool comic book series that I reread for a second time yesterday. And really kind of took me back to my high school years. Just the crazy antics and the shit that they talk about in this book is really cool.
Oh, that's the cover I don't have. Which number is that?
See, I'm not sure which cover this is, but it's got the it's like they're being attacked by some juggalos there.
Wow, is that number 1?
Yeah, this is issue 1. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a very I don't have. Oh, very
but
cool.
really cool writer, and was super happy when he agreed to come on and hang out with us tonight. But y'all help me welcome Tom Breyfogle onto the live stream.
Yes,
everybody.
What's up, Tom? How you doing, man?
Doing fantastic. How are you guys?
Oh,
good.
I'm stoked that you're here, man. Glad you're here.
Yeah, this is great. We were talking a little bit before. This is the first podcast now promoting the trade for the book that's coming out next month. So I'm happy I haven't talked about this comic book in a few months. So I'm really excited to do that.
Yeah, that was great news, man. That's breaking news to me. I didn't know anything about that. So first off, tell everybody at home who you are in case they don't know who Tom is.
My name's Tom Breyfogle. I'm a musician and a comic book writer. This year, put out a 3-issue miniseries called How I Became a Shoplifter. It's about the final generation of juvenile delinquents before smartphones, before social media. It's 11 chapters. Each chapter is a different year, watching these kids grow up, and each chapter is a different art team. So 31 artists worked on the book.
Yeah, it's really cool inner artwork too. I really enjoyed the inner artwork. Wish I had the book open. I'd show you guys. But anyways, your story is a little bit unique to me. As I kind of dug into your background, you're a musician who turned to writing later on tour, right? Kind of as a means to fill time.
Yeah.
A little
So,
bit.
oh, Lorenzo, there you go.
Oh yeah, we got some.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I in 2014, it was my New Year's resolution, 13 into 14. So January 1st, 2014, my New Year's resolution was to get some sort of hobby or something that wasn't music related, because I was really finding my whole life at that point, every new thing I would do, even if it was for fun or professionally, it revolved around music somehow. So I got into reading comic books, and then had no goal of writing them initially, but then pretty quickly, like within a month or two, like April 2015, I really started writing comic books. It was mainly just writing stories that were happening in front of me. Like my life was a bit of a circus. Like I was just on tour with different bands, and then would leave the tour, everyone else would go home, and then I'd be on tour with a solo artist with a bus full of strangers for 6 weeks. Then that tour would end, and I would hop on another one. And so I would I would just write these stories that I was experiencing this wild lifestyle. It was just doing stick figures at that time. I had no aspirations to actually write comics. Like an old favorite movie of mine, American Splendor, you see Harvey Picar using stick figures and stuff. And I was just like, oh, I'll do that. And then I started writing comics with stick figures and just using markers to highlight which characters who, because I can't draw at all. But then I'd be using those, and the dudes on the bus would be the guinea pigs. I'd be like, hey, what do you think of this comic? And I'd see people genuinely react, and it was kind of cool because it was just stick figures. And it was really liberating too, because creating music can be so complicated with software or renting studios or this or that. This was a piece of paper, a pencil, and a couple markers. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really cool. And then I put out music under the name Birds in the Airport. And in 2016, I directed a lyric video / like music video. And that was the first time I ever hired a comic book artist. And for Birds in the Airport, I play all the instruments. So it's a lot of alone time, just me at a computer, me in a studio, just with no one else. And that was a really cool experience, writing a script, writing down ideas, sending it off, and then it coming back. And I was excited about it. And that's when I was like, oh, I'd been writing those stick figure comics for a year at that point, but that's when I was like, I'm going to actually start writing a mini series. Yeah. I wrote a mini series. It almost got published. Hopefully it'll see the light of day at some point, but it almost getting published really gave me like the bug to get something out there. And then I really started making it a priority in my life, like 2018 or so.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And you mentioned Birds at the Airport. I checked them out, and it's a really cool project. And I think that's just absolutely nuts that you played every single instrument. That's just amazing to me, and a really cool project, man. And really cool.
Thanks.
I dug it.
Yeah, I haven't been too active with it lately. Up until the last few months, and I've been doing these instrumental pieces. Those will all come out as a Birds in the Airport EP. I've been making these like about a minute long pieces for comic books that I love, or the feeling that these books make me feel, because there's no music involved. It's not like a movie. Yeah. So it's a fun way to find inspiration. And gonna put those out at some point. I have no idea when, but once there's at least 10 or so, I'll put those out. And then I have a few more Birds in the Airport songs with lyrics and everything that are done that going to put out eventually.
Some really, really cool, interesting tracks. And I definitely enjoy the what you were doing, putting the music over the comic book. I saw the one that you did. I think it was it Rain? Did you do one for Rain?
I did that 3 days ago.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. That one was really cool. I enjoyed that.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that book. And it was really fun. That one, I make a lot of music for movie trailers too. That's the only one so far where I feel like my movie trailer background came through a little bit. It feels a little bit more like a movie trailer than just a piece of music, but it was really fun to make that. And the story of Rain is a story by Joe Hill, and David M. Booher did the adaptation, but it's like, instead of rain falling from the sky, it's all these like crystals that are killing everybody. So that was fun to incorporate the music. I did like a like to the sound of the rain, the crystals killing everybody.
So, what inspired you to come up with Ethan and Phil and these characters? Okay, maybe I should explain the backstory and a little bit about. Well, you explained it earlier, but it's basically it's about these characters, Phil and Ethan, these two like teenage kids, and this crazy shit that they're doing throughout these books. Really funny stuff. Setting up his brother, just hilarious stuff that any like crazy teenager would do. Where did the inspiration come from for Phil and Ethan?
Yeah. Is there any character like Phil or Ethan that you identify more with?
Yeah.
Or do you identify with neither of them? Just out of curiosity.
They're both fictional characters, but Phil is, I don't know, at least 70% me.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Ethan is an amalgamation of a lot of my friends from that time period.
Okay. Yeah.
So did the stories, were they just like original stories that, I mean, you just made them up in your head, or did you base them off of any events that you've seen over the course of your life?
They're pretty much all inspired by something real, but very exaggerated.
That's awesome.
But yeah, a lot of the story, like there's a chapter where they're trying to get autographs for some girls, from these girls that love Smash Mouth. So they sneak backstage at a Smash Mouth concert. That one did happen. I did do that. How it ended didn't happen.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty clever. What happened there?
Oh, yeah, that didn't happen. In the comic, I don't want to spoil anything. There's something that didn't happens. But in real life, I did get back there. The opening band I had seen before a few times, so I chatted with them, and they were really nice. They were called 22 Jacks. The singer is a comedian now. His name's Joe Sib. He's never seen the comic. If I ever see him, I need to give him one. They were incredibly nice to two 15-year-old kids and didn't need to be. And they gave us backstage passes, and I just thought, because I have this pass, I can do whatever I want. So I just walked straight into Smash Mouth's dressing room and was like having them sign these images. And then, the singer was kind of a jerk, but he should have been a jerk. It makes sense that he was a jerk. I was just like, I'm just this child walking into his, like, where they're showering, and just like, I have a pass, I'm cool. But so that story is kind of real, but all of them pull from something, but they're all exaggerated.
Oh, wow.
Now there's a page in I can't remember exactly which issue, but he's going to get a tattoo. I think it's issue 1. But there's a whole page of just illustrations that symbolize different bands.
Mm-hmm.
And he intends on getting them as a tattoo, I think. Where did you come up with the list of the bands from? Are these bands like that you listen to personally? Because like a lot of these were bands that I listened to as a teenager growing up, and I was just kind of like, holy shit, like this band is pretty cool. Yeah.
So that in the comic book, there's a guy at the tattoo shop who won't give band tattoos. So they have to be incognito about it. I have the books here. I'll pull that page up.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. It's a funny scene.
Every one of these, like, so this represents Alkaline Trio, like 3 alkaline batteries. This is the Dead Kennedys and the Bouncing Souls, Black Flag, Garbage, all these bands. So
try to blow you up here.
My friend Sean, growing up, wanted to get this tattoo right here, a silver chair, because his dad wouldn't allow him to get band tattoos. So that was a big inspiration for the story. He just wanted to get a tattoo of a chair on his arm. Yeah. And it represents Silverchair. And then the other inspiration for the story, in the story, Phil wants to get that tattooed on his chest, but then get a tattoo of himself here. And then any tattoo he gets, the little version of himself also has to get.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was my idea. I was on a path to do that when I was like 15, 16. That was my goal. I wanted a sleeve of all Freddy Krueger tattoos, and then I wanted myself on myself, and then they'd have to give him the Freddy Krueger tattoos. But then by the time I turned 18, I had so many friends with bad tattoos that I have no tattoos still. I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. But the list of bands, it was mainly just bands from that time period. That story is based in July of 2000. Yeah. And so it has to be bands that would have been somewhat known by July of 2000, that would also there were a lot of bands I left out, but just bands where it could have been fun to see visually, like the Smoking Popes. You get to see
Oh yeah.
some versions of the Pope, John Paul, everybody smoking cigarettes, Smoking Popes, just anything like that. It was more bands of the time. Not all those bands are my favorite bands or anything, but a lot of them are. Yeah, that's how I chose them. Just bands that me and my friends were listening to in the summer of 2000.
Yeah, I was really big into Rancid and Green Day and bands like that, early punk rock bands, like 97 Warped Tour bands. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool, a cool touch.
Thanks. Yeah, the opening page of that issue is at Warped Tour. It's like subliminal. But yeah, there that's I believe this was the 99 Warped Tour. I didn't put a date on this one, but yeah, so this was I went to all those Warped Tours. My first tour ever, I was a drum tech. I wasn't playing in the band. My first tour ever was Warped Tour 2002. I was 17, and it was a really cool. It was the summer before my senior year of high school. It was really a fun experience to be on tour where like the headliners that year were NoFX and MXPX and Goldfinger and all these bands that we loved. It was awesome.
The Warped Tour was still, that's back when the Warped Tour was still like really great. Like I don't know, like the late 90s through the early 2000s, the Warped Tour was awesome.
Yeah, that's the era. I did it a lot of times in the later years and stuff, but that was the year. Those were the years it was for my age group for because I guess Warped Tour would have been for teenagers. So yeah, that was the year I was into it. I liked it the later years, but yeah, it wasn't like playing shows with my favorite bands when I was on it in say like 2013. It was fun doing it, but that year I played it with a woman named Jen Wigmore and then a band Reliant K, two separate, the beginning of the tour with Jen and the end of the tour with Reliant K. And it was cool all around. That year Goldfinger still was there, so that was cool. Still got to have some nostalgia and music from my youth.
Yeah, man, that's a really cool band. What instrument were you playing on that tour? Which band were you playing with?
Jen Wigmore. I was playing drums. Her drummer had to leave the tour for a little bit. I loved playing in that band. That was she had a hit called like Black Sheep this is about a decade ago. Yeah, it was summer of 2013, and it was so fun not being personally invested. I just had to learn all the music. It was really good music, and then got to be on Warped Tour in this band that I was not like too deep in, but it was just having a blast doing. It's so different than most bands where it's like a big chunk of your life and you're dedicating so much. And then that was the beginning of the tour. Then later in the tour, Reliant K, that year we did, we were on a normal headlining tour, but would do like 2 or 3 Warped Tour days a week. So we'd be on Warped Tour a few days, leave, play normal club shows, back at Warped Tour. And then in 2007, so 6 years before that, I did the whole tour with a band called Bleed the Dream. But at that band, Bleed the Dream, we weren't on a tour bus or anything. So that tour is a very difficult tour to do when you're driving yourself overnight and everything. So it's much more, it's over now. There is no more Warped Tour, but doing it I've done it on a bus, in a van, and in an RV. And it's every time was awesome, but doing it in a van is really tough.
Yeah, I would imagine so, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, when you got I kind of sidestepped from the writing part. I want to get back to the book. When you came up with the idea for the book, like how did you go about putting it together? Like you had the idea and you knew the direction you wanted to go in. What was the process in putting together the book?
So first I wrote a story called Father Figure. That book's going to come out next year. Father Figure is about the character Phil, but he's in his mid-30s. And all of these stories were initially going to be flashbacks in Father Figure. And I was having a hard time finding an artist to commit. I was talking to Daniel Hilliard to do Father Figure, and he was way too busy, which makes sense. He's like one of my favorite artists. And then so I was putting out the feelers with so many artists to do Father Figure, and no one could commit. And then I just decided to do the 2 projects separately. And then I all of a sudden then was able to I hit up Daniel again, and he was down to do 5 pages, and this person would be down to do 8 pages. Most of the chapters are between 8 and 10 pages. So once I had the idea down then where it would be a different chapter for every year and a different art team for every chapter, then it became a very intense process of finding artists. Especially at that time, there was no publisher. I was an unpublished author. I'm just hitting people up out of the blue, hitting up like my favorite artists, knowing they'd say no, but hoping they would recommend someone else, and just being on Instagram a lot. And there, like I mentioned earlier, there's 31 artists. That's counting colorists, inkers, pencilers.
Right.
Of those 31, that's counting the cover artists too. There's 15 covers, but it was so hard to get the first few batch of people. And then once an artist named Davide Pupo, I met him at C2E2 like the week before the pandemic happened. He and Daniel Hilliard did their 2 chapters that time. So we're talking like April 2020. The whole book elevated at that point. And then it wasn't easier to get better artists, but it was all of a sudden the book was starting to look like something. And I was finding artists of a certain age who were excited by the project. So that was another thing. Like I said, I was unpublished. No publisher was attached to it at that point. By the time a publisher came around, the book was completely done. The trailer was done. 4 of the covers were done. It was, I was possibly just going to kickstart it. And then I had a deal with one publisher, and then Behemoth, they were called Behemoth at the time. Now they're Sumerian Comics. We started talking, then it made sense for it to come out there. It made once I started seeing their books and stuff in probably early mid 2021, it made total sense for the book to come out with them.
They put out some good stuff.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I love about that Behemoth, but I love Behemoth books, but they look so great. I love the couple. You talk about Daniel Hilliard. I love his work on, I think it was vinyl, and he did plush, but vinyl. Yeah. Oh God, when I saw Daniel Hilliard was doing your cover, and like, oh wow, this is a very, very cool. So he did the first story, the prologue, I should say, and he did I think a cover also. So yeah, and Behemoth is into music. Oh, now Sumerian, excuse me, is also into the music world as well. So did that have anything to do with you choosing them, or was that just nothing to do with it?
It was, so their main like aesthetic, they're like punk rock or metal aesthetic, Behemoths, that is. Yes, that had a lot to do with it. I wasn't thinking about actual music. Like we've talked about putting out Birds in the Airport music with comics. I don't think it's going to happen for the trade next month, but I signed the deal with Behemoth, and then they merged with Sumerian Records, which is a record label, has a lot of great bands like Smashing Pumpkins were on it. Once that happened, that was awesome. But no, it wasn't. The music itself wasn't as much of a deciding factor as just the whole vibe of what they were doing. And back to the question, I left out a lot of things about finding all the artists. So let me think, because people always ask me about like where to find artists. Just find your favorite artists or letterers. You find your favorite letterer and just hit them up. Antonio Fabella is one of my favorite colorists ever. And I just found him on Facebook. I couldn't find his email, hit him up. I wasn't even sure it was actually him. I was like, I hope this is actually him. And it was him. And he's doing a cover on Father Figure, and Daniel Hilliard has already done a cover on Father Figure. It looks amazing.
Yeah. So when's that going to come out?
Right now, March, but I don't know. That's a gut feeling of March. It's not a.
But then the trade, though, we got the trade coming up, right?
Yeah, September 12th. The trade comes out it's 136 pages, so there's a lot of back matter. There is chapter 1 of the book was drawn by multiple art teams, so you get to see the original art team that drew it. All 15 covers are in the back there, and yeah, it's going to be fun.
What all does it? Okay, I've read issues 1 through 3. Does it go beyond issue 3?
No, there maybe at one point I would do issues 1 and 2 make side A, and issue 3 make side B. At one point, maybe I'll do a side C and side D. But their Father Figure is issue 4 is being drawn right now. It's a 4-issue miniseries, and then the follow up to that is called Generation Numb. It's already written. I'm getting artists. Those are the order of things I want to go in. So as far as side C and side D, if that ever happens, it would be years.
And the trade will collect issues 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3, and then deleted chapters, and then all the covers, and then also there's a 10-page trailer for Father Figure.
Nice. That is awesome because there are a lot of really cool covers for this series. A lot of cool covers.
Thanks. Yeah. That was a fun undertaking. It was I had only ever done one cover per one issue for books I had done before. So when Nathan from Sumerian and I were chatting and came up with the number 15 covers, it was really cool. It also made it less stressful, where it was like, if you're only getting one cover, nothing's perfect, but you want it to be perfect. You want it to be the best cover. So when there's 15, you can experiment a little more. But I really, that was about a year ago right now when we were putting the covers together, and it was an undertaking. It was so much more work than I thought it would be, but I'm so happy how much work it was. And I'm talking about someone, didn't even draw them. I can't even imagine how much work it was drawing them. But like this cover, writing the script for this one was a lot of work. Gabriel Falzone is the artist on this one. He drew it and colored it. I can't even imagine drawing that. He did such a great job. Yeah.
I have that one as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a cool cover.
I got that
I
one.
like that a lot.
Oh, awesome.
So what were some of your favorite parts of putting together this book, or what were some of your favorite parts about the story that you wrote?
Of putting it together, I guess it was a lot of it was peak pandemic times, and a lot of it was quick payoff because they were like 5 to 10 pages. Where like Father Figure, Juan Romero is the artist on it. He did the tattoo story we talked about, but we've been working together on that for 3 years now, where every artist was a different length of time, but sometimes you send a script and get the layouts the next day, which is unheard of. And then like some of these came to life really quick. Like the prologue with Daniel Hilliard was like in a month, it was there. Like things like that were some of those were my favorite moments. Getting to work with that many amazing artists that was probably the highlight of all of it, and the most stressful part of all of it. But yeah, I guess it really cemented going back to that time period. It was cool. Like a lot of like Phil's bedroom, I don't have a single photograph of my childhood bedroom, so it was like writing down things that were on the walls, or finding the posters on eBay that were on the walls and things like that, where it was a trip down nostalgia lane. Like it's like so much of it, I guess, capturing. That was a cool thing after it was done, showing people things and it working, of capturing that time period, especially with a lot of the artists are in their early 20s and live in other countries, have never been to the States, definitely weren't around in the 90s to capture that feeling. And then people my age or older are like, this is exactly how it felt. And I'm like, awesome.
Dude, it really was, man.
Totally.
Like a lot of the stories, man, like I was saying earlier, I feel like it was ripped out of my teenage years. So I was a punk rock kid growing up. Like this was my life. These books were mine and my friends' lives. And that's, I think, why I like the story so much.
Thanks. Yeah.
Now there's a Juggalo connection there. Is there something to the Juggalo connection, or is it just per chance you put them in the story, or was there some special connection you have to Juggalo?
So in issue 2, what they're talking about in issue 2, this is probably my favorite spread, one of them in the whole series.
It's
Gabriel Falzone, same artist who did that last cover we talked about. He drew it, and Dijo Lima, who's an incredible colorist who passed away before this came out. Just so sad. He colored this. One of the most amazing coloring jobs in the book. So this chapter is about Phil and Ethan trying to get weed to impress these 2 girls. They're always trying to impress these girls named Molly and Mindy.
Yeah.
And this drug dealer, he gives better weed to juggalos. And then all of a sudden, the one character knows all of this juggalo slang, and they get the weed at the fatter weed at the discount price. But then Phil is like,
the fatter bag.
He's like, how do you know all of this juggalo slang? So all of that is rooted in one of my best friends growing up is a juggalo, or was a juggalo. I mean, he still likes their music and stuff, but he's not really a full-on juggalo anymore. But we're talking in the late 90s, early 2000s. He had a group of friends with me and my friends and stuff. And then he also had a group of juggalo friends that I really didn't know. And one night I went to a party in high school, and certain people, my friend group, left the party or this or that, where all of a sudden I was the only non-juggalo at the party. And everyone started doing their sayings, like who's going chicken hunting, and then whoop whoop, and all these things. And I'm just like, what is, like, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know the lingo, which then I did learn all the lingo. And that same friend, his parents, it was weird. They wouldn't let him go to see Insane Clown Posse. And as someone, I had never listened to Insane Clown Posse at this point, and I was like, fuck that. I'm taking you to see them. You're not allowed to see them. We're going. And so I took them. He lied to his parents and said he was seeing Marilyn Manson, which is even funnier that they're like,
Marilyn Manson can go see. Yeah, no problem.
So we went to the concert.
That's worse.
So I learned even more of their sayings and all that. So I've seen them a few times. I do like some of their beats. Mikey Clark was the producer. I do like some of his beats he made. But so then I learned all that stuff. And then years later, like 2010, I was playing a show in LA. I was on tour with this guy named Tyler Hilton, he was on the show One Tree Hill, which I had never heard of him. I had never seen that show, but he hired me as a drummer. And I was drumming for him at the Roxy in LA. And Twisted were playing next door at the Key Club, which Twisted were on EP's label. And so we were sound checking, and all these juggalos kept coming into the Roxy to use the restroom because I guess the door was unlocked. I don't know. It was like 2 p.m. And so all these clowns were coming in, and we're sound checking, and I'm like, hey, you guys want to see something? And I grab the mic and start saying the sayings, and I'm getting all these juggalos like screaming back, all the back and forth. And Tyler Hilton and the rest of the band were like, what language are you speaking? What the hell? How do you know this? And that's what inspired the story, all of those events.
Nice.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I love that. That had me cracking up. His family being the juggalos and all that. Yeah, that was funny. Now, what's the best way, if there's somebody watching that wants to pick up these books and check them out for themselves, what would be the best way to find them, to go purchase them?
Well, issue 3 came out. The final issue came out in April. So if your store has it, I don't know at this point if you can even order any more from Diamond. You might be able to, but the best way would be September 12th. The trade's coming out through Sumerian, but also through Simon & Schuster. So it'll be on Amazon. It'll be in normal bookstores, and it'll be at comic book stores.
Awesome. Yeah, I know the shops around here, they always carried How I Became a Shoplifter. I never had to specifically ask for it. They always had it on the shelves, but I figured maybe Sumerian had a website or something they might could pick it up on. Or
they do have a website, Sumerian.inc. The trade will be up there
sweet,
closer to the release date, so in like 6 weeks or so.
Dude, that's gonna be awesome. Well, you got into writing comics later in life. Did you get into? Are you also a reader? Do you collect any comic books?
I don't really collect. Like that year in 2014, when I was like, that'll be my New Year's resolution. It was another part of my resolution where I would not take the collecting part seriously, where like I put them in long boxes, but I'm not precious about collecting them or trying to flip them or anything. I do have some awesome number ones. I should sell that. I have like Department of Truth and like things like that. But it's no, I just want it. I do read a lot of comics, but I don't take them as serious. I don't take care of them as well as some people, or that's not part of the hobby for me, the collecting part. When I was a kid in 1997, I got, I believe it was either an X-Men book or an Image like ripoff of an X-Men book. I remember getting it like at a dollar store and being really into it. And I drew my first comic then, which was that comic's in the book. There's a book in How I Became a Shoplifter. There's a chapter called the DKK where it's kind of like a Freddy Krueger. My first comic I ever drew was me and Freddy Krueger killing people. I was Tom Krueger with Freddy Krueger. And that story inspired that. But then at that same time, then I went to Green Day. Were on tour for the album Nimrod. And I saw Green Day, but they were playing clubs at that time. I saw that tour. I was already drumming for a few years at that point, but that moment on, like I stopped playing video games. I stopped reading comics, and music was all I cared about. Besides, like I would read the occasional like a Jay and Silent Bob comic or a Simpsons comic, but I wasn't going to the comic book store every week. Then again, until 2014. Since then, I go every week. I read a lot of comics, and I like to stay. I prefer reading trades, but I never buy trades. I always buy them weekly or monthly with the series. But yeah.
What type of stuff do you enjoy reading?
I enjoy Terry Moore a lot, like Echo and all of his, like Parker Girls, his later stuff. I just read a book, Nicole Gu. I met her and Dave Baker at San Diego Comic-Con last week. This book, I just read it yesterday. It's an amazing book. It's called Pet Peeves. I would recommend that. Other
There you go,
books.
Pops. There's a book to review.
Pet peeves. Oh, I've never heard of that. I've not heard of that one. Yeah. Okay.
I love Jeff Lemire's work, writing and drawing.
Yeah.
I really loved Royal City. And recently, Little Monsters, another Jeff Lemire book that he wrote but didn't draw.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, love that book.
Yeah, I've 1 through 13. That's a really great series. Yeah, that's good. Jeff Lemire does kids in tough situations really well. You know,
Well,
just
Plutona.
yeah. That's what we do. But being a vampire on a planet like that would be a tough situation. So yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, awesome. Is there anything else you're reading right now that you want to
I should have
shout out?
thought more about that. Yeah, let me grab Ballistic. It's an older book. I chatted with Black Mask Studios at Comic-Con with Matt, and I gave him How I Became a Shoplifter. He gave me Ballistic. I haven't finished it. It's a pretty interesting book. I don't know if either of you have read that book.
I like Black Mask too. No.
It's pretty cool. It's one of the original ones, I believe. Yeah, I like other Black Mask books. I like Hal Exit and Four Kids Walk Into a Bank. And
White
what's
pretty good.
Here, what'd you say?
White was pretty good. The title White.
Oh, White. Yeah.
It's pretty
Preceded
good.
by Black, which was also by them. Yeah, Black and White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are two very good series. Yeah.
Totally. And then I really like Adrian Tamina. He hasn't put out a book in a couple years, but there's a movie adaptation of one of his books, Shortcomings, coming out. Maybe it's already come out, but it's coming out this summer. But I went back and read Killing and Dying is the name of a book he put out. I don't know when it came out. I read it right before the pandemic. So I read it early 2020. I'm not sure when it came out.
So you actually got to go to San Diego Comic-Con this year?
Yeah, I was there early Thursday through Sunday. It was 4 days.
How did that go?
It was great. You know, it was awesome. Met so many cool people. And there's in the background on this chat, I can see I did an homage cover for Clerks.
It was awesome, man.
I got to meet Kevin Smith, gave him that cover and chatted a little bit. That was really cool.
That must have been really cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was
what did he say?
He was just like, whoa. He was just like, oh, he was like, is this the trade? And I was like, because I gave him all 3 copies. And I'm just like, no, it's each copy. And I told him the story of how when I was 11 years old, how I discovered his movies. At that point, there was only Clerks and Mallrats. And I've told that story on other podcasts. I'll tell it here, but it was really fun to have this story I've told since I was 11. So I've told for many years. I got to tell him and he seemed genuinely moved, gave me a hug and it was cool. But the story, when I was 11, in my hometown in Ohio, I grew up in Ohio, and this radio station had a thing called the Top 10 at 10, where you would they'd have the top 10 songs of the day, and every night at 10 p.m. they'd play them, and a fan would get to announce each song. Yeah. And I always wanted to be one of those fans announcing the song, so I just kept calling the radio station and being like, "Can I be on the top 10 at 10?" And then they called me a pain in the ass and put that on the air. And it really pissed my dad off. And my dad wrote an angry letter. We're not talking email. We're talking printed out.
Angry dad letter.
Mailed it to the radio station. And they wrote back an apology letter with the Mallrats soundtrack as a gift.
Yes.
A part of the apology gift. I had no idea what Mallrats was. It wasn't even able to be rented yet. And then once it was being able to be rented, was like, I got to rent this, and rented it and having no clue what it was. A lot of the bands I liked at the time were on that soundtrack. So then saw Mallrats. I told Kevin this too. I told him it completely changed my sense of humor that day. And it did. Like up until that point, nothing against Adam Sandler or anything, but up until that point, Adam Sandler would have been like the pinnacle for comedy in my eyes as an 11-year-old. And then that day I was just like, oh, that's dead to me. And then I got into pretty much too early. Like I remember watching Pulp Fiction. All these I'm watching alone. I watched Pulp Fiction alone at age 11 and was watching alone. It was Dusk Till Dawn. It was all.
That's a good one.
Watching them that young, but they were all monumental for my taste. They were just. I feel like it made me also, with my generation, people my age. I feel like maybe I missed out. Like people will talk about movies and things where I'm like, oh, I've never seen that. Like I feel like I connect to people maybe 6 years older than me because of those moments. I just turned off liking things that were made for people my age in the mid 90s.
Dude, Mallrats was so good. That was probably my favorite of all his movies, honestly. I love Mallrats.
It's fun, and there might be Mallrats too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Dude, I would like to see a movie made out of this. I think this would make a damn good movie, personally.
Yeah, it could be fun to do. It could be fun to do the 11 chapters with 11 directors and 11 acting teams all seeing the age. Or maybe like 3 acting teams, but seeing them all grow up, that could be fun. Or it could all be animated. I love animation, but no, it could be. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I would love it if it happened.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I could totally see it for sure.
Yeah, the live action with the characters aging would be, I think, totally perfect. Yeah, that's a great idea.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys at home, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask, feel free to ask in the comments, and we'll get them answered for you. Is there anything else you want to talk about while you're here? While we have you here, anything else cool music wise or anything coming up? Anything you want to promote?
With music, mainly right now, it's movie trailers and the stuff I've been doing for comic books. I did 2 in the last 2 weeks. I did one for Brian K. Vaughan, his book, Spectators, and then did one for Rain we talked about. I did one for Jeff Lemire's Royal City a few months ago. It's been really cool doing those where then the creators like Brian K. Vaughan reached out, Jeff Lemire reached out. It was really cool. I wasn't expecting that. And they
what kind of feedback are you getting?
From them, it was just very nice, just being Billy Brian K. Vaughan. He reposted it on Instagram and just said, what an honor or something. Jeff Lemire said it was wonderful, which very brief, but I will take it. Yeah,
man, that's like the ultimate compliment from the writer or artist that created it.
Yeah, no.
We got a question from Dr. Hoot, Dr. Von Hoot's Comics from the Spiral Dimension. What's up, Dr. Von Hoot? He wants to know, what was your first concert? What was your worst concert? And what was your best concert?
Playing concerts or going to concerts? If the doctor is still there.
Yeah, specify, DVH. Specify for us, please, if you don't mind.
Doctor is in.
The doctor is in.
I guess I can answer it for my first concert I ever went to as a fan, like getting tickets, was a Green Day concert. It wasn't that one that I talked about that really made me put down video games and everything. It was on the Insomniac tour. I was 11 years old. It was amazing. Yeah, that was my first concert. Then my second concert was Foo Fighters at a club. I got to go to a lot of cool concerts. I have an older brother, and that's how I got to end up at both of those.
Very nice, man. I saw Green Day in '97 at the Vans Warped Tour in Atlanta. Nice. It was awesome. It was awesome. Trey Cool burnt his drum set to a crisp.
Yeah, those were. I don't know why I was so inspired by the destruction back then. I really was, though, because Nirvana was before my time. I never got to see Nirvana, or like obviously like the Who. Never saw those bands in their prime, and I would always see this footage of them destroying their instruments, and I just thought that was a thing of the past. And then Green Day, they stopped doing it, but the years they did it, I don't know why that excited me so much, just to see them destroying their instruments. And it was so dramatic. Yeah, they would like burn the drums. They had the horn section then playing horns like while it's going down.
Yeah, I think they added that horn. I think they added horns like for Nimrod. They added a horn section.
Yeah, the 2 guys from No Doubt at the time, and Gabriel McNair, he plays in Sublime now, Sublime with Rome.
That was one of my very, very favorite bands of all time, Sublime. Bradley Noel is the man.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so, it took a lot.
Worst concert that I've ever been to? I don't know. Worst concert for me playing, I guess there's a few that come to mind. I've never really thought about this. I guess the worst are when I'm a drummer, when something bad happens, like your bass drum breaks or slides off or something, that would be a terrible. It's not that good of a story. Here's a story where I was in a band where the drummer got leukemia and he died, and I replaced him not long after he died. And the band was still in the middle of just grieving when I joined the band. I didn't know them. It was an audition. We were touring the world. The band wasn't like famous, but we were opening for big bands and playing all over the world. And it was a band called Bleed the Dream. And that band, it was a very serious thing. Like their friend, one of their best friends just died, and I'm stepping in, and it was an interesting thing to step into. And at our farewell shows, we're playing this song written about him. And our farewell shows, for some weird reason, were in Anchorage, Alaska. It makes no sense. We should have played them in Los Angeles, where the band was from.
Yeah.
So the show is in Anchorage, Alaska, this bar called Chilkoot Charlie's. And I don't remember where these women came from. Maybe they worked for the bar or something. They're these women wearing like striped, almost like cheerleader outfits. And we're playing the final song of this band's career is this dedicated song to that drummer. It's a really heavy music song and a heavy concept of a song. And we're going at it, playing it. And then all these like women are dancing on stage, just like all having a great time. I really didn't like that moment.
Yeah, that's kind of not cool.
Yeah. They didn't know. It was unfortunate. They didn't know that they were just having a good time. If it was any other song, that'd have been fun. But yeah.
What's like a highlight? What's a show where you just absolutely killed it on drums or something? What's a highlight in your music career?
A highlight as far as playing live like that?
Yeah, just a night where you were just on point.
I would always be prepared for shows. So I don't know. I would always go in there and I think a highlight would be when I played with Relient K and I started recording with that band in 2011, started touring as the drummer in 2013.
That's
and
awesome.
then at the end of 2014, Dave Douglas came back to do a 10-year anniversary tour and him be the drummer. I moved over to bass. I hadn't played a show on bass since I was 17. And it was just like I had 6 weeks to figure it out. I was also singing background vocals for the first time ever.
Oh, wow.
And so those 6 weeks, and in those 6 weeks, I was working at a recording studio here in LA, would get off work. I practiced bass 6 hours a day. It was 60 songs I was learning for the tour and the background vocal parts. I got married in those 6 weeks as well.
Wow.
And then going on tour. And then at that point, I'd been touring as a drummer for over a decade, but all of a sudden being a bass player and then pulling it off. And the first few nights of doing that were pretty cool feeling. Also, at that same time, Birds in the Airport did a tour opening for Relient K. That's when I was still playing drums in Relient K.
Wow. How does that work?
There were 3 bands on the tour. Birds in the Airport were the first band. Then there was a band called Golden Youth and then Relient K. At that time with Birds in the Airport, I was playing drums and singing. So I had my drums up front and we'd play the show. The drums would get moved to the riser for when we played. Those shows were, I didn't skip paying my dues in any way ever in my life, but that was fun. The first shows I ever sang in front of anyone as the lead singer, they were Relient K shows. So the one was in Knoxville at the Bijou Theater. It was probably 1,700 people there. The next day was at an arena. It was a college arena show. My second show ever was in an arena. It wasn't like Staples Center size arena, but I don't know how many people were there. 4,000.
A lot of people.
Yeah, no, it was. Those were fun experiences. Those were really cool, and those were songs I wrote and played all the instruments, and never knew if I was going to play live or do anything. Those were some of my highlights, as far as just personal highlights.
That's pretty incredible, man. That's pretty incredible.
Thanks.
Can't imagine playing in your solo act, opening up for another band you're playing in. That's crazy, man. I don't know how you do it.
It was great. The end of the night, yeah, those were natural highs where like going to bed in the hotel room, like I can't believe I get to do this again tomorrow. And like I was already like, I wasn't a teenager. I had been doing it a long time, but I was back to having those feelings. It was cool.
Now let me ask you, what drives you? Because you have something driving you. You're this multi-talented guy. You've achieved a lot. What drives you?
I guess I always have to be doing something creative. I don't know. Same thing with exercise. I always have to exercise and do something creative, or else I become someone you don't want to be around. I mean, I just have a drive to, I guess, to do something creative every day. That's what drives me. With comics, I have all these stories written now that I want to tell. And I wish they moved a little faster, comics, because most of these stories, like I've been talking about, have been written for years. And the next ones are already written. But yeah, I guess just having a constant need to do it.
Is that just is that something that just artists have in common? Are you that way too, Pops? Do you all just have to have something going to occupy your brain?
Yeah, and if you don't, you like Tom says, you just don't feel right. You know, you can go a few days without doing creative stuff, like you have shit going on in your life and all that. But if you don't get a chance to let that creativity out, you know, at some point you're not going to be happy, and you're not going to, you know, it's not going to be like you said. You won't be around a person that that's got this stuff pent up in them and they can't let it out. That's just that's something we have to do as artists, or whatever kind of artist you are. You know, you have to express it. I mean, even if it's for no money in front of nobody, you know, you just have to let it out. You know, it's the thing. Now you alluded to not giving away too many giving away any spoilers to the father figure series in How I Became a Shoplifter with the pretty nice little nice tie-in there. So I'm kind of excited about that coming out. So how soon do you think that might be hitting the stands?
I would say earliest would be March of 2024, probably right.
Okay.
4 issues, so March through June. It could be a month or two later, but it should be wrapped up by the end of the year as far as all the covers and all the art.
Okay,
that's great, man. I can't wait for that.
The Marion title also is going to be on that publisher.
I hope so. I can't say anything right now, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like working with them.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Well,
all hail Marion.
We have a question from Eman's World of Geek. My bad. He says, Tom, have you ever come up with a story that you had a great feeling about, but not have it published for the sake of finding the right publisher for that particular piece?
No, I've come up with stories and pitched ideas that didn't get published, but I've never had one where there was someone interested and I didn't do it just because they didn't seem right, really. Yeah, a story called Subterranean. That was I want it to come out. It was 7 issues. It was written at the time. I didn't realize writing a 7-issue story was a little harder to get published than writing a 4-issue story. Publishers, it's taking more of a chance to keep people around for 7. But no, I haven't done that for the sake of finding the right publisher. No, I think if a publisher seemed excited about it, I would do that. I've had it happen, when there was more than one publisher involved, and I've had it happen where with How I Became a Shoplifter, a different publisher that I didn't go with, were asking me to change the title of it, and we're asking me to change the covers. And we're asking things where I'm just like, well, you're obviously not as excited about it as it seems like Sumerian is. Not that I was like super offended by them asking me to change the title. I was just like, oh, do you have a better idea? What's your title? And then they were like, no, we don't. We just don't think it's a good title. And I was just like, oh, okay, well.
I love the title. The title's what grabbed me.
Typical non-creative, requests like that.
When I was in the shop and I came across this book and I saw the title of it, that's what pulled me in. I was like, How I Became a Shoplifter. I got to see what that's about. And I picked it up.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I like the title too. I like the title better than Father Figure, but Father Figure's in stone. It's there. Yeah, How I Became a Shoplifter. It was going to be called Growing Up in Ohio, which I like that, but that doesn't tell you what the story's about nearly as much, or the feeling of it.
Yeah, I think the title works, man. I love it.
Absolutely. Both titles work, in fact. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can't wait for that next one, the next installment of it. Now, where can people find you, like on social media, if they want to go check you out as an artist, just in general?
The best place would be on Instagram. It'd be tom.breyfogle.comics. That's where I'm most active, and I post images of what I'm working on all the time, or music, because I don't post covers. I'll wait till the books are announced to post those, but I post work in progress pages constantly, like for Father Figure or for other projects. And that's where I'm posting all the music until the album's done, until Birds in the Airport puts it out. That's where I'm definitely most active. I have a mailing list that I rarely update. I should do it more. You can go to tomwritescomics.com or tombreyfogle.com. Tom Writes Comics is easier to spell than my last name, so that's why I say go there, go and do the mailing list. Those would be the best places. Or I have a podcast called Franchise Fan Guys. It's a weekly podcast about franchises. We have an Instagram page as well where if you go there, I'm pretty active on that one. If people ask questions or say anything, that podcast is just all about franchises as a whole. It's me, a guy named Andy Schmidt, which Andy worked at Marvel in a lot of awesome years at Marvel. He had a lot to do with the current iteration of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wow.
And worked on a lot of huge stories. And another guy named Skidmark from the Glass Cannon Network, where he does a bunch of different podcasts. So it's the three of us. The three of us just hung out we've done 110 episodes. We just were all in the same room for the first time at Comic-Con. We had a little meetup at Comic-Con. It was great.
That's awesome. Now, where can we find the podcast at? Because I'm not normally a podcast person, but I want to check this out.
Oh yeah, you can just find it anywhere podcasts are, Franchise Fan Guide, or you can go to franchisefanguides.com. I would suggest finding a franchise that you already like. We do most franchises. We do 4 episodes. We're currently doing X-Men. We're doing 12 episodes. It might be overkill. It's kind of felt like the X-Men podcast this year. But so if you love X-Men, then that'd be great. But I would recommend, for my personal taste, like the Nightmare on Elm Street. We did those a couple years ago.
Yes.
Really enjoyed doing those.
Big horror fan.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And then we'll also do we did Mission Impossible a few years ago, but like then when the new one came out, we did a reaction episode to that one. The final episodes of each franchise, we talk about what we would do next if we were in charge. And that's my favorite time. That's where it's always a brain workout to be like, what would I do next if I got to pick what the next Freddy movie or the next Mission Impossible movie or Terminator or anything like that. So I believe once X-Men wraps up, we're doing Back to the Future, I believe.
Dude, that's going to be fun.
Totally.
Nice.
Yeah, it should be cool.
Well, Pops, what you got going on? You got anything coming up?
Oh gosh, I got I'm doing a few reviews this week. I try to do three every week, indie comic reviews on my indie comics review channel on YouTube. And then your comic brother Marcus and I have the live stream every Wednesday to be talk about comics and do a curated list of stuff that's coming up for the next week. So got those two things coming up.
That's awesome, man. I always look forward to that, and I always love seeing your reviews, Pops.
Yeah, thank you for the How I Became a Shoplifter review. I've seen it.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure, man.
Awesome.
It was great.
Cool.
That name drew me in, man. What that guy was talking about. Without that name, you need something blander, than this. No, that's a great name. That's a great name. Love it.
That's awesome. But Tom, man, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you both so much. This was so much fun.
Yeah, dude. And you said the trade's coming up in September, right?
Yep, September 12th. And then I'll announce in Southern California, I'm going to do a few signings. One in San Diego, one here in LA, possibly one in Ventura. And then as of now, might be at New York Comic-Con. Not totally sure if that's happening. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And then, I'll definitely be at LA Comic-Con. And then next year, hopefully the same thing as this year. I was at WonderCon earlier this year with Sumerian at their booth. Hopefully go to that next year. And at that point, hopefully Father Figure will be coming out.
Dude, can't wait for that. Yeah, yes, definitely can't wait. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Guys, thank you so much for checking out the show and hanging out with us tonight, all you guys at home. Be sure to flip over to, I think it's Geek Out with Roscoe's channel this week for Between the Lines. Special guest Couchin and Slouchin with C. Bizzle. That's going to be a fun show over there, drawing it up, doing the art thing. And thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. I'll have special guest Jigpool NYC, huge Deadpool fanatic, huge Rob Liefeld fanatic. It'll be a fun show, guys. But we'll see you guys next time. Let's see. We'll end it with a Biggie clip here. See y'all later.
Bye-bye.
I'd say that one is a banger, man. It's a real certified